It was a rainy Saturday morning, and I could hear it tapping against my window. I looked up from my laptop and let out a soft sigh. The sound was somewhat annoying, yet also oddly soothing, and I thought it might help me focus on the history essay I needed to finish for school. As I kept typing away on my laptop, I suddenly heard yelling. I paused, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, and groaned quietly to myself. Not again. I got up from my bed and walked out of my room, heading down the hall and downstairs, where the yelling grew louder. As I turned the corner, I spotted my mom and my older brother Mark in the living room, arguing about something. "Mom, I already told you I'm sorry. I should have called to let you know I'd be home late. I didn't realize that party would go on until 1 in the morning. And I've already told you that I don't like you or your brother being out that late. Something terrible could happen to you. For heaven's sake, you could have been killed or kidnapped, Marcus." Mom and Mark continued their argument, clearly oblivious to my presence. I sighed softly, contemplating whether to just turn around and let them sort it out. Even though I was 25 and Mark was 27, Mom still treated us like children. She insisted we stay with her until we were both 30, which infuriated us. I felt a surge of frustration rising within me, and I cleared my throat as loudly as I could, causing Mom and Mark to stop arguing. They both turned to look at me. "Oh my goodness, Daniel, I'm so sorry. Did we interrupt your studying?" Mom asked, sounding genuinely concerned. "I've been attempting to study for more than an hour, but I can't concentrate with you two bickering like children." Mark's face flushed a deep red. I could tell he was embarrassed about the situation, yet he was still angry with Mom and couldn't cease his argument until he had expressed everything he wanted to say. "We're sorry, sweetheart. I'm just trying to explain to your brother that staying out too late is unwise," Mom said. I've always disliked that particular trait in Mom. She's such a worrywart. If that's the right term, I mean, because she frets over everything, even the most trivial matters. "You know what? I'll just head to the library. Maybe I can finish my essay there, and hopefully there won't be anyone trying to tear each other apart." I nearly yelled the last part out of frustration, as I turned and stormed back upstairs to my room so I could grab my things. As I shoved my laptop and notebook into my bag, I muttered under my breath about the constant fighting, and how I was being treated like a child. Just as I was about to leave, I heard a knock on my bedroom door. I turned to see Mark leaning against the frame. I hadn't even noticed him come up behind me. "Let me guess. Mom sent you up here to stop me from heading to the library," I remarked, glancing at him. "Yep. She believes it's a terrible idea for you to go outside in this rainstorm because you might get sick or even struck by lightning, which is ridiculous, but she wouldn't listen when I told her that." I rolled my eyes and plopped down on my bed, slipping on my shoes and ensuring the straps were snug, but not so tight that they would cut into my feet. Honestly, I don't care what the worrywart or you think. I'm going to the library to finish my damn history essay, without having to listen to another argument from either of you. Now, if you could do me a favor and tell Mom I'll be back before dinner, that'd be great, I retorted. Before my brother could respond, I got up, tossed my bag over my shoulder, and pushed past him, making my way downstairs to the main part of the house. Mom was there, clearly waiting for me. I raised my hand to signal that I didn't want to hear the lecture and assured her I'd be home by dinner, before stepping out onto the porch. The only sound I could hear was the rain and the rumbling thunder. I let out a soft sigh, double-checking that my bag was securely closed, then pulled up my hood and set off toward the city library. Who would have thought a library would be open on the weekend? After a few minutes of walking along the rain-soaked street, feeling the droplets on my head and back, I found myself in front of the library, a smile creeping onto my face. The library always brought me joy. There was something magical about the aroma of aged paper and the soft murmurs of books that captivated me. As I entered the library, I greeted the woman at the front desk. She returned my greeting with a smile, though I could sense she wasn't thrilled to see me looking so drenched. I located a spot to settle down and a few minutes later my belongings were spread out on the desk as I began working on my essay. In fact, my laptop remained tucked away in my bag while I attempted to proofread my notes before transferring them. I sighed quietly, frustrated that nothing seemed to make sense, and realized I needed more assistance. I got up and approached the front desk, inquiring if there were any history encyclopedias available that could aid me in my school essay. She informed me that all the history encyclopedias were located in the back corner of the library, and advised me to be cautious while I was there, since some of the books were quite old. I nodded in agreement and made my way to the back corner. Upon arrival, I began to sift through the aisles, but all the books appeared either dull, or I was certain they wouldn't be of any assistance to me. Before long, I turned a corner and stumbled upon a section I had never seen before. It looked rather intimidating, as the overhead light was flickering and swaying back and forth. I noticed a layer of dust on the shelf, and a few bugs scurried away from my shadow, rushing past me. I glanced at all the encyclopedias and couldn't help but smile. Perhaps one of these could be useful, I thought, grinning. I began to pull encyclopedias off the shelf, examining their covers. Some of them I had read previously, while others were quite old, likely published when my mom was my age. As I pushed one of the encyclopedias aside, something heavy tumbled down on my foot, causing me to cry out in pain. I quickly slapped a hand over my mouth, not wanting to disrupt the tranquility. I looked down and saw a thick brown book lying on the ground. I bent down to pick it up and noticed it lacked any library codes or markings indicating ownership. However, I soon realized how worn and tattered it was. The spine was cracked. I dusted off the cover and read the title, which sent a shiver down my spine. Prophetic pages. I opened the book and began flipping through the pages, each one yellowed with age and filled with handwritten notes and strange symbols that seemed to dance before my eyes. As I continued to flip through the pages, I discovered that each one contained a detailed entry about the life and death of an individual. It struck me that the names were eerily familiar. They were all people I knew, friends, family, acquaintances. I was in disbelief over what I was holding. When I turned the next page, I nearly dropped the book on my foot again. Timothy Green, age 23, died in a car accident on April 15th, 2003. This page was dedicated to my childhood best friend, Timothy, or Tim as I had called him. April 15th was tomorrow, and I could feel my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I closed the book, trying to convince myself that this was just a cruel joke. I glanced around the library, half expecting someone to jump out and shout, "Gotcha!" But the aisles were empty. The only sound was the rain, tapping against the nearby window. That and my heavy breathing. I came to the realization that I had to hurry home to call Tim and alert him about what was going to happen. I tucked the strange book under my arm and dashed back to my desk where my belongings were. A few minutes later, I found myself sprinting down the street, as fast as a guy who mainly plays video games and practices the trumpet can manage. I began to ponder a multitude of thoughts. Was any of this real? Was the book some sort of cursed object that the library had been concealing? Upon arriving home, I rushed past Mark and Mom, who were in the kitchen preparing dinner. Thankfully, I didn't hear them arguing, but I didn't have the luxury of time to deal with that right now. Once I reached my room, I tossed my bag and the Prophetic Pages book onto my desk. Then I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. Without delay, I dialed Tim's number, my fingers trembling as the phone rang and rang. Just when I thought he wouldn't pick up, I heard his voice on the other end. "Dude, you need to listen to me. This is really important. Are you planning to go out tonight?" I asked him. Timothy excitedly explained that he was actually going to see a new horror movie that had just been released, and suggested I join him if I were done being Mr. History. I took a deep breath and pleaded with him to stay home, urging him not to drive anywhere and to just remain safe at home. Tim immediately laughed, teasing me for turning into my mother. I was on the verge of telling him about the peculiar book I discovered at the library, but I knew he wouldn't believe me. Just then I heard Mom calling my name, so I told Tim I had to go, and he hung up. I let out a sigh before glancing down at Prophetic pages. Deep down, I feared it might already be too late for my childhood best friend. I heard Mom calling me again, so I set the phone back on the nightstand. I then walked out of my room and saw Mom standing at the foot of the stairs. She informed me that dinner was ready, and that she'd been calling me for a couple of minutes now, urging me to come downstairs before the food got cold. At the table, I sat there, pushing my peas around my plate with a fork, while Mom and Mark were engaged in conversation. But I couldn't focus on them. My mind was occupied with thoughts of the dangerous book from the library, Tim's disbelief, and the looming possibility of losing my best friend, either tomorrow or maybe even tonight. "Hey, little brother, what's up with you?" Mark inquired. I jumped in my seat, nearly falling out as I managed to keep my composure, because I knew if I hit the ground, Mom would treat me like a baby. "Oh, I'm just pondering my history essay. I found some intriguing information at the library, and I think it'll help me score a good grade." I couldn't share the details of that so-called death book, because neither of them would believe me, especially after Tim hadn't believed me when I warned him about his fate. After dinner, I headed back to my room, sat on my bed, grabbed the book, and flipped to the page detailing Tim's death. I kept staring at it, wondering if it was real or if I could tear the page out and somehow prevent it from happening, like some kind of paradox. Then I remembered that this book was indeed from the library, and I had borrowed it. Yet it lacked any library barcodes or scanner tags, so perhaps it didn't actually belong to the library. I let out a soft sigh before placing the book on my nightstand and getting ready for bed. And soon I was laying there in the dark, thinking about Tim and the terrible car accident that awaited him on April 15th. The next day, as I woke up, sunlight streamed through the window. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and yawned. Instantly, I turned around, glancing at my phone, my thoughts immediately drifting to Tim. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I quickly grabbed my phone and texted him, checking if he was all right and if he'd enjoyed the movie. I anticipated a swift response, but there was nothing. Throughout the day, I kept waiting for Tim to either call or text me, but still no reply came. Panic began to creep in, and I muttered a frustrated curse under my breath. I made the decision to call Tim's home phone. However, instead of him picking up, it was his mother. When I inquired about Timothy's whereabouts, I heard her gasp in horror. She informed me that Tim had been involved in a car accident while driving to the grocery store, and the paramedics said he didn't survive. In that moment, I felt my legs buckle beneath me. I leaned against the wall, sliding down it until I collapsed on the floor. The prophetic pages had spoken the truth, and it had come to pass. The book had foretold his death, and despite my efforts, I couldn't save my best friend from dying. The very next day, I found myself back at the library, involved in a fog of sorrow and disbelief, desperate to comprehend what had happened. I settled into the same desk as before, retrieving the book from my bag, gazing at it before I began to leaf through the yellowed pages once again. Each page contained a meticulous account of the life and death of various individuals. Some were familiar to me, while others weren't. Yet each entry represented a friend or a family member that would meet their end in a unique circumstance, all described in vivid detail. As I continued to turn the pages, I suddenly halted on one that sent a chill through my hands, almost compelling me to hurl the book across the room. Jessica Carter, age 25, dies from an aneurysm on April 16th, 2003. In that moment, I understood that this page detailed the death of my girlfriend, Jessica. A shiver coursed through me as I recalled the last time I saw her. We were at the coffee shop, sharing laughter over something silly. Without hesitation, I jumped up, stuffed the book in my bag, and fished my phone out of my pocket to dial Jessica's number. "Hey, Daniel, what's up? I'm at work right now." "Listen, whatever you're doing, you need to stop or head home. You're in danger." I rushed to explain about the book I discovered in the library, detailing how it revealed the death of all my friends and family, including her. I then told her I found Tim's name in the book, and that he died in a car accident yesterday, just as the book had predicted, for that exact date. Whoa, Daniel, I think you've been watching too many horror movies. But when you get to the restaurant, at least bring me that so-called mystical book you have, Jessica said before hanging up. I felt an urge to scream in the emptiness. I urged my feet to run, wishing I had my car or something quicker than my clumsy feet. When I finally reached the restaurant, I doubled over, gasping for breath. As I looked up, I saw a crowd gathering around the entrance, and confusion washed over me. Were they having a sale, or was there a fight going on? I was indifferent to the commotion. My only focus was finding Jessica to show her the book. I squeezed through the throng and entered the restaurant when I noticed paramedics and medical personnel, along with an area cordoned off by barriers. I couldn't see what was happening due to another crowd blocking my view, so I tapped on an old man, and he turned around, concern etched on his face. "Sir, what's going on?" "One of the workers just collapsed, and the paramedics think she's dead," he replied. The moment he mentioned she, my heart plummeted. I pushed through the crowd, and there on the ground, eyes closed and lifeless, lay Jessica. "No, Jessica!" I yelled, my voice echoing in the chaos. Instantly, the paramedics and medical staff turned to me. One approached and asked if I knew her. I told her I was Jessica's boyfriend, that I'd just spoken to her on the phone moments ago, urging her to leave work because it wasn't safe. I was rambling, overwhelmed, and I stopped when the paramedic placed her hand on my shoulder. "Young man, it's okay. You should know what happened. Your girlfriend has died from an aneurysm. There was nothing we could do to save her. I'm so sorry." The book felt like a dark oracle, revealing its grim secrets, and I thought about showing it to the woman, but if I did, she would likely bombard me with questions I couldn't answer. So I thanked her, and without another word, pushed past everyone and exited the restaurant, furious that this cursed book had claimed yet another person I loved. Weeks later, the unsettling pattern persisted. Each page revealed the demise of a victim who was more familiar to me than Jessica. I'd become a captive of the book, unable to resist the allure of its sinister knowledge. I felt as if it understood my sorrow, with the ink appearing darker on every page. Then I stumbled upon a page that shattered my heart into countless fragments upon seeing the name. Marcus Roberts, age 27, died of a heart attack on April 30th, 2003. I realized that was tonight, and I leapt out of bed, rushing to my brother's room where I found him lacing up his shoes. "Dude, where are you going? It's almost 9 o'clock at night." "Can't sleep. Thinking about going for a late night run. Be back soon." I pleaded with him not to venture out into the night, insisting it was too perilous. Mark chuckled, saying I was becoming like Mom, but I was just terrified of losing my brother. After an hour passed, I found myself in the kitchen, assisting Mom in preparing her renowned double chocolate chip cookies, and I could see that she appeared anxious about something. I inquired about what was troubling her, and she revealed that Mark had not returned from his walk, nor had he sent her a message, as he had promised to do when he came back home. I sensed what was about to unfold, and I knew I had to intervene. I looked at Mom and told her I needed to take care of something, to which she simply nodded in agreement. Without another word, I quickly put on my jacket and shoes. Then I dashed out of the house. My breath came in quick, uneven gasps as I sprinted towards the park, Mark's favorite place to walk. As I neared the park, I spotted a figure lurking in the shadows, and my heart raced in my chest. When I turned the corner, I found him lying on the ground, clutching his chest. "Mark!" I yelled. I hurried to my brother, but deep down I already knew it was too late for him. The dreadful book had taken yet another victim, and this time it was my brother. I was descending into madness. First, my 2 friends were taken from me, then my brother. The loss of my loved ones was a heavy burden to my emotions. That's when an idea struck me. I seized the book and made my way back to the library, one last time, desperate for answers. The main librarian, an elderly woman, looked up at me with her piercing green eyes when I came in. "What is this book? Why is it causing all of this?" I slammed the prophetic pages onto the desk. Initially, the lady remained silent, but as she took the book and examined it, her expression shifted, and she regarded me with a serious look. "Young man, where did you come across this book?" "I was here searching for a history encyclopedia when this book fell off the shelf and landed on my foot. But you still haven't answered my question. What is this book?" "That's the prophetic pages. It has always existed, young man. It chronicles the lives that are intertwined with yours, and predicts not only death, but also the weight of choice and the paths we take." "This isn't a choice, it's a curse," I shouted in frustration. "Perhaps it is, or perhaps it isn't. But understand this, that book only reveals what is already destined. It's not the cause, but a reflection of the choices you've made and the connections you've established." I took a step back, my mind racing. Had I somehow cursed all of these people, my loved ones, without even realizing it? Was I in some way accountable for the choices they made or the paths they chose? "Can I change this? Is there any way to stop it?" I inquired. "The only way to put an end to this situation is to cut off the connections, but it comes at a cost, young man." Her words seemed to penetrate deep within me, and without uttering a word, I turned away from the desk, leaving the book behind in the library. I came to realize that I had to create distance from everybody I cared about. I needed to sever ties with them, even though it felt like a betrayal. It was the only way to protect them. In the following weeks, I dedicated my days and nights to solitude. Whenever I encountered someone I recognized, I would steer clear of them, and I ignored their calls and messages. It was torturous, yet it brought a sense of relief as I observed that no one around me was perishing, and I felt assured that my loved ones were safe. Then one day, as I went to my bedroom to indulge in some video games, I discovered the prophetic pages lying on my bed. I felt as if I could melt into a puddle. I hurried over to it, picked it up, and as I examined the cover, my hands trembled while I opened the book and flipped straight to the last page. To my surprise, it was entirely blank, leaving me puzzled. Recalling what the librarian had said, I touched the paper and watched in amazement as the information began to materialize before my eyes. When I saw the name of the next person destined to die, my jaw dropped in disbelief. Daniel Roberts, 25 years old, passed away from loneliness on May 15th, 2003. The book slipped from my grasp. That date was tomorrow. I couldn't fathom it. I felt as if I might either vomit or weep like a child. The realization hit me like a massive wave. I'd been so focused on saving my friends and loved ones that I had unwittingly sealed my doom. I needed to cut myself entirely from everybody, even my mother, who was thankfully still alive. But I was destined to become a mere ghost, a mere shadow of who I used to be. This book had twisted my intentions, transforming my wish to protect into a sentence of death. The following day, I found myself sitting alone on the floor of my bedroom, feeling the darkness creeping in, coiling around me like a serpent. I reminisced about my friends and brother, recalling the laughter and the memories we had created together. It dawned on me that I had forsaken them all, and in doing so, I'd condemned myself. Mom tried to coax me out of my room, but nothing she said had any effect. As night descended, I sensed the air becoming thick and oppressive. Suddenly I heard whispers, likely from that dreadful book, echoing in my mind, pages shifting as if they were alive. I let out a soft sigh, rising to my feet, and moved to my nightstand where the prophetic pages lay. I began flipping through the book, only to find it completely blank, and I realized I was about to join them. I shut the book and hurled it to the ground, confronting the horrifying truth. I'd become a prisoner of my own decisions, a fate worse than death. As the sudden darkness enveloped me, I grasped the meaning of it all. The real terror did not stem from the foretold deaths, but the isolation I had chose to accept. But now it was too late. I'd become a new edition of the prophetic pages, destined for a solitary conclusion. As I sank into the shadows, I finally understood how to escape the curse of that book. Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.